My old pal, Tristan Harris, I am so excited to see you
Good to
and
see you again.
talk unfinished and finished. And we're going to start with a big one. Tristan, fake news. Is it finished or is it unfinished?
I think fake news is and the falsification of our information environment is here to stay. I think we need, because I don't think as long as we have business models, as you know, that are about spreading unchecked information virally without any kind of moderation or circuit breakers, that is just dangerously leaves room for fast infection of false information. I think of it like COVID. What's the R naught of fake information? And as we say in the film, The Social Dilemma, fake news can spread 6 times faster than true news. So I wish it were not the case that it was here to stay. I think we need a much more culturally immune population that can not really just use critical thinking, but really recognize that this system is fundamentally not going to produce hearsay or rumors that are likely to be accurate.
And in 2021, it's going to be about vaccine information as well. Okay, so definitely unfinished.
Definitely unfinished. But yeah, the vaccine is going to be a big one. Okay, I've got one for you.
Okay.
Manoush, privacy, is it finished or unfinished?
Is so unfinished, so unfinished. We are just getting started with privacy, particularly here in the United States. We saw two states, California and Michigan, pass new privacy regulation. It's interesting, like when I first started reporting on privacy stuff, people were like, what? I pay for free apps with my information? And now, like, everyone knows that. But they've also, like, they still feel disempowered, I think, consumers. And so we're at this regulation stage, which I think is going to get more interesting, more exciting. There's also projects that have been in the works, like Sir Tim Berners-Lee, his Solid project, just launched, like for real, this month, which is really exciting. And that's where you have your own personal data pods. So I feel like privacy, oh, it's so problematic, but it's unfinished. But there's some really exciting things coming down the pipeline. What do you think?
What worries me is the way that our minds are so seduced by the promise of certain rewards. And I know you know the example, I think it was about a year ago, of this app that went viral that said if you upload a photo of your face, we'll show you what you'll look like when you're 80 years old. And it was actually a company that was based in St. Petersburg. And we can have all these data regulations that we want, but if all it takes is sort of showcasing our own vanity and our own social approval to get basically, I think it was something like hundreds of millions of people volunteered their photo to this St. Petersburg company to do this. It shows you that psychology might be more dominant than kind of data regulation and privacy, even though I want to be with you there on that one.
Okay.
Okay, Manoush, daydreaming, finished or unfinished?
Oh, so unfinished. I actually think that it was weird. The pandemic, when it happened, I got so many inquiries about the book that I wrote, which is about the attention economy, but also the power of mind wandering, and how that works. And I think, there's nothing like a change in your schedule, in your habits to sort of wake you up out of your stupor and rethink a lot of the ways that you are spending your time and your energy. And, I think I hear from a lot of people who've discovered long walks, which is really an amazing thing. A lot of kids are bored because they have to be. And that, as I write about in my book, is not necessarily a bad thing. Daydreaming, it's back, man. It is back for sure. What do you think?
I agree with you, and I think it's like the national park of the attention economy. We should reserve it and not let it be drilled upon and be made part of the commodification engine of these companies.
Agreed. Daydreaming is actually productive. So strange but true. Ooh, this one's tricky, Tristan. Free will. Is free will unfinished or finished?
That's a very good one. I think about free will as kind of free-ish will. I think that there's a difference between how many dimensions of freedom do we have in a given choice-making environment. So someone who's in poverty has a limited set of menus that they can pick from. Someone who has a supercomputer pointed at their brain with, it knows everything about you and you know nothing about the weaknesses that it's identified in your mind, that limits and narrows the degrees of freedom that we have in that moment. And I think the challenge that we have is that technology is going to get better at building that voodoo doll avatar model of us, not worse. It's going to predict more moves ahead down the chessboard, not fewer down the chessboard, like with Garry Kasparov, except in this case, the chessboard is our brain. And we're going to become more immersed and infused in technological environments, not less. Although, as we talked about with Daydreaming, if we can reserve these national parks where screens are not infused with our lives, I think to the extent that we have free will, or free-ish will, we can expand those dimensions with our time spent not in these environments and not on these screens. And so I don't think it's finished, but I do think that the deck is stacked increasingly against us if we don't wake up as a culture. How about you? What do you think?
Sadly, I'm with you on that. I think the only way to really exert your free will is to opt out right now. Even those of us who, are writing about ideas, how do you get your ideas out there? You have to use the platforms that you are writing about that you hate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the only way is to completely opt out. And can we not let's definitely say though that free will is not finished, right? Like,
we agree it's unfinished.
Okay, I'm up next to give you one. Tech for Good. Is Tech for Good finished or unfinished?
It's definitely unfinished. I hope that, all of the pressure and kind of cultural awakening that's been happening the last few years with people realizing so many of the harms of tech, which I hope don't disenchant people too much to technology overall, but allow them to recognize there's certain toxic business models that cause these ills, and that we don't have to have or associate technology with being harmful or evil. And I was just on a call actually with some parents talking about the social dilemma, and should we let our kids use technology? And I made clear, growing up, I'm on an iMac right now, and I think if we all had a big desktop computer for our kids where they could creatively come up with songs and music and programming and art and writing, this is totally a tool that can be used for good. And I think we can have a whole industry and a whole set of incentives in which technology is really not in this predatory or manipulative business model with us. But for us to do that, we have to really question and regulate the business model that's based on this sort of influencing a slight imperceptible change in our attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, which is what Jaron Lanier says is really the problem with the social media companies. But what do you think?
This idea that technology is neutral is finished. Definitely. Like,
thank God, right?
Right? Hallelujah. I am usually an optimist, but I'm really think that Tech for Good is just getting started thanks to the pipeline that is being built.
Okay. Cancel culture, finished or unfinished?
We can't have a good debate over how we want our society to continue to hopefully flourish if we can't listen to each other and give each other the space to make mistakes or plead our case or all of those things. And so I think cancel culture, it has to be over, but I do also think that the people who've been calling it out, like that list in Harper's of people who said, let's end the cancel culture, there's some people on that list who've had a lot of power and have gotten to say whatever they've wanted to say for a really long time. And at some point, you know what, maybe not cancel you, but can we just mute you a little bit, some of you people? So I think cancel culture is too simplistic. Let's finish it and let's be more nuanced about who has the power, how we have civic discourse, and how we continue to be a place where ideas are worth debating.
I agree. I think we need to call it finished if we care about our society being able to evolve. I think an entire culture that is based on hyper monitoring with vigilance for any small mistake and using that to create a angrier and angrier mob who with a shortening time horizon have utter black and white certainty that you need to go. having kids and teenagers in high school subject to that, the effect of that is that every kid is afraid and doesn't get the chance to grow and make mistakes. And that I think that what we really should value is a culture of conscious evolution where we each have a space for growth, making mistakes, and also apologizing if we do make a mistake. But right now, the research shows that if a person actually makes a public apology, they'll do even worse because of the way social media is structured to build still a bigger and bigger, angrier mob, that wasn't enough, and why, that person still deserves to be reprimanded, and so on.
Which brings us back to the first thing that we talked about, which was fake news. And exactly right, that we can see clashes that happen online also translate into real life clashes, which let's hope we don't see more of that in 2021 as well.
I agree.
But on a positive note, this was so fun. Good to see you, my friend, even though it's over Zoom.
Really good to see you, Manoush. And please be well. I know with the school shutdowns, I know it's a lot to hold. It's great to see you.